Hello, this is Daniel King reporting on round 7 of the Istanbul Olympiad. In the top matches, Russia defeated Azerbaijan and take a sole lead, and China defeated Armenia. Bit of a shocker. Armenia, have their second defeat in a row, and my play of the day comes from that match. It's the game between Movsesian and Wang Yue. Movsesian with the white pieces, and it started out as a Slav defense, and this is a speciality of the Chinese player, in particular this so-called Chebanenko variation of the Slav, where black advances very quickly with a6 and b5. Movsesian chose to close the position. Now these kind of closed positions where the pawn structure is locked together are often very difficult to evaluate. The game can turn very quickly. So, well, let's see what happened. g6, good move. Bishop is best on this diagonal now, instead of coming out to e7. And Movsesian chooses to occupy the outpost with a knight and plays f4. Of course, the downside is you weaken the e4 square, but it's a very double-edged position. And this is a particular speciality of the Chinese. Black gains space on the queen side, and this can have quite an effect on the game later on. We'll see. Okay, bishop e2 was played. And here, Wang Yue in the past chose queen c7 against Gelfand. Let's just have a very quick look at that game and see how it developed. So the Chinese player in this case plays quite orthodox moves. And now Gelfand played bishop f3, so it's taking the e4 square under control. And now g4. And if you have a look at this position, you can see that black's minor pieces are really blocked out of the game. These pawns control key squares here, and Gelfand was able to develop an attack on the king very, very easily. Black has very little play here. Now compare with what happens in the game. Instead of queen c7, Wang played h5. Now I think that's an excellent move. Takes g4 under control, so that's no longer possible. And if g4 is under control, then f5 is under control, and that gives you greater control over e4. So you can see how strategically rich this position is. Okay, bishop f5, and white is also fighting for control of e4, and knight e4 comes anyway. Now a4, now that is a very committal move indeed. I'm not sure whether that's good or bad, to be honest. Let's see how the game develops. So the pawn must really come forward to b4, and white takes. Now the idea of playing a4 was to give white access to the c4 square, and if white can perhaps play bishop c4, things could be good. But I really like this maneuver of Wang Yue now. He plays bishop e6, and the point is that bishop is like a rock, just binding together black's center. Very good maneuver indeed. Now white rushed forward with f5. Now I sort of understand why he did this, because if you play something normal, let's say knight c4, okay, the knight looks pretty good on c4, and then just develop with bishop d2, maybe you want to play bishop e1, but that can be met by h4. And after f5, well, let's say bishop e1, you play h4. To be honest, I don't know where white is going in this position. I don't see a really good way to play here for white. I think the position is just about equal. So I can understand why Movsesian rushed forward with f5. Now this does look very dangerous when the king is still in the middle. But Wang reacted brilliantly here. He plays bishop takes knight. That was probably rather unexpected to Movsesian, but it's absolutely correct. And now he took on f5, and this looks crazy because it seems as though white is rushing forward with his pieces. But in fact, this is very dangerous for white. These pawns are weak. This bishop is still the rock that holds black's position together. And now Movsesian took on h5. This looks very strong for white, but Mosfetia must have overlooked black's next move. This is a brilliant move. e6, very unexpected indeed. Okay, if the rook retreats, then rook takes bishop. So white must take on f7. This looks disastrous for black. In fact, you'll see that the position just transforms within a couple of moves. The rook must go back. And now queen c7. And you can see just in the space of 2 moves, black has coordinated the rooks. The queen's on excellent square. The bishop is in trouble. The king is very safe here. And white's development is actually very poor. The rook and bishop don't contribute to the play at all. Okay, let's crack on. White must save the bishop. It was in danger of being trapped with knight takes e5. Knight e5, bishop takes e4. Looks like white might have rescued the situation, and now there is a beautiful move from the Chinese player. He must have foreseen this several moves ago. He played the elegant knight d3. What a beautiful move. Threat, queen takes h2 mate, so the knight has to be dealt with. Well, let's have a look. If bishop takes d3, then black just crashed through. It's actually very, very straightforward. You just exchange rooks, and basically black is just winning this position because he has more pieces in play than white. The king can avoid perpetual, and the king is being cut to shreds here. So let's go back. So instead of bishop takes d3, queen takes d3 was played, but in a sense black wins in a very similar way. Just brings his pieces into play, exchanges off, and although black is a piece down, in fact he's winning this position because the rook and bishop simply don't contribute at all. So king e2 played, and rook h1, and if bishop takes d5, then rook e1 forces mate straight away. So white was forced to give up the rook. So black is now the exchange up. Now white's only hope is to perhaps get some kind of counter-attack against the king, maybe a perpetual. But in fact, with some careful steps, black's king can avoid this quite easily. So for example, queen h8, king c7, well, you could give one more check, but then the king hides on c6, everything's fine. So king d3 was played, but now a very quiet move, a very subtle move, will win the day. Threat, queen c4 mate. Okay, white gives check, king comes up, and b3 to prevent the mate, and now queen f5 is a winning move, and that was the end of the game. If king d4, queen e4 mate, and if king e2, then queen f1 is mate. Very beautiful win from Wang Yue. So Russia now lead with 13 points. China and the Ukraine have 12 points, and the pairings today, Russia-Ukraine, Ukraine the defending champions, and China-Azerbaijan. Should be good. Thanks for watching.